Changing our habits can seem very difficult. Most people think that these changes require willpower and a tolerance for pain. This is not necessarily the case. Here's why. When we engage in any activity, the brain recruits some of its neural connections to store memories of that behavior and other associated behaviors. As we repeat behaviors, the brain recruits more neural real estate, usually in the same areas of the brain or nervous system, to store these behaviors, and will continue to recruit as long as we continue to repeat the behavior. The more often it's practiced, the more neural real estate is recruited, and the denser the physical structure that steers us towards this behavior becomes. Like building muscles, repeating behaviors will cause our brains to recruit new tissue to handle the activity and will generate a change in the physical structure of our brains. Now that we've built this dense physical structure that steers our behavior, how do we behave differently? Well, if you've ever had an arm or a leg in a cast for any length of time, you know that the muscle inside the cast atrophies or weakens. The same thing happens to these physical structures in the brain if they're not used. This is why athletes must continue to practice their skills or they lose them. This may sound oversimplified, but the way to quit smoking is to practice. By practicing being a non-smoker, we can strengthen the new non-smoker neural pathways and weaken the smoking pathways that are not being used. Some excellent techniques for behavior change include mental practice, anchoring, and incrementally repeating the new behavior. Mental practice. Interestingly, our brains build neural pathways to support what we imagine as strongly as they do for what actually happens. Hundreds of research studies have proven that, for instance, mentally practicing golf will give pretty much the same result as actually practicing. This is why many successful people mentally practice their techniques and their successes before they ever master them. This practice strengthens new behaviors and weakens their old habits. Anchoring. The early behavioral scientist Pavlov would feed a dog every time he'd ring a bell. The dog would eventually still salivate when he heard the bell, whether he was fed or not. Pavlov's law goes like this. The determining element in any behavior is what happens immediately before the behavior. Tying one behavior to another is known as anchoring, and we can build anchors to steer us towards our new behaviors by practicing the anchored thought or behavior when we practice our new and desired behavior. The real skill in anchoring is to pick something as the trigger that's going to occur anyway, like anchoring adjusting our clothing to feelings of confidence when we begin speaking to a new prospect or client. Incremental practice. Actually practicing a new behavior, moving from small increments to large, is an extremely powerful method for building new neural pathways. When I quit smoking, I practiced not smoking for just the first hour of the day for 1 week. The first 2 days of that week were challenging, but I knew I'd be able to smoke at the end of that first hour, and that really made it bearable. The rest of the week was easy. It was just practice. The second week, I practiced not smoking the first 2 hours of the day. The first 2 days were challenging. The rest of the week was easy. It was just practice. I did this for 8 weeks until I'd gotten to the point that I'd become so good at not smoking that I just quit and haven't had the urge to smoke for the last decade. There are many other components that can be used to help us to change our behavior and to have a better quality of life. If you notice, none of the powerful tools we've just spoken about require willpower or a tolerance for pain. Just the use and practice of techniques that have been proven to work, that are based in sound scientific fact, and that can be used by anyone willing to put forth the necessary effort.